Hi, I'm Charles, and I'd like to discuss a truly terrible but informative miracle that can be found in the New Testament. And this is the miracle of Jesus' baptism. It says in Matthew, the 3rd chapter, then Jesus came from Galilee to the Jordan to be baptized by John. As soon as Jesus was baptized, he went up out of the water, and suddenly the heavens were opened, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and resting on him. And a voice from the heaven said, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." If only we had another eyewitness who was there at the time who could maybe tell us a little more about what happened. And luckily we do. And that would be John the Baptist himself. And this could also be found in the book of Matthew. This would be the 11th chapter, which reads, "Now when John, while imprisoned, heard of the works of Christ, he sent word by his disciples and said to him, 'Are you the expected one, or shall we look for someone else?'" So for some reason, John didn't get the memo. It's as if John wasn't there. It's as if none of those things happened. How else could this be explained? Consider what it says is the heavens opened up. The Spirit of God came down in the form of a dove. The voice of God was heard. "This is my beloved Son." Make no mistake who else it is in the crowd. This is my beloved Son. No, the dove, in whom I am well pleased. But somehow John didn't get that message. It wasn't clear enough. Couldn't he have asked any of the disciples that were there with him that day, did I really hear that? If you read those scriptures side by side, it tells you that the miracles didn't happen. So what is going on? And remember those sketchy details. This is how they kind of come into play. Because Matthew, whoever wrote Matthew, and it wasn't Matthew, but Matthew was written like 30, 40 years after the facts. So what Matthew, or the writer, is doing is simply writing down as many stories as he can come across. It's not important to him that they dovetail perfectly and make sense. What's important to him is he has the most complete account he can put together. And so that's what he's done. His interest is getting as many stories in there as possible, and they're probably pretty well-known stories. He would probably have loved to leave out the second part about John sending his disciples for the inquiry, because it would mess up his story, but he couldn't leave it out because it was too well known by the time he got around to writing. And so he's sort of stuck, and he also probably doesn't care. There's probably so much of it that it doesn't make sense. And that's why the details of the clouds opening up and what exactly the dove was doing and so forth, that's why they're so sketchy. In fact, the whole New Testament is pretty sketchy. It's because there's nobody there they can cross-examine. Nobody was still alive that whoever wrote Matthew could go to and say, "When you say the heavens opened up, what exactly?" Because no one was left. They were all written after at least 70, after the fall of Jerusalem, when the faithful and unfaithful alike that were still in Jerusalem were slaughtered or carried off into captivity by the Romans. There was nobody left to ask. And so, sketchy details or not, they get included in the account. And also, there was another Gospel of Matthew. It was written in Hebrew, and it was the only gospel accepted by the Ebionites. And the Ebionites are this group of Christians that lived in Jerusalem, or at least near Jerusalem, in close proximity to the disciples. They might have, some people think they actually were the original Jerusalem congregation. They had a Hebrew Gospel of Matthew, is what they called it. Only theirs began with the baptism. It left out all the miracles about Jesus' birth. It skipped all that stuff. It started, we know, with the baptism. We don't know what it said about the baptism, but we do know it left off the virgin birth and all the wise men and all that other stuff. And this was one of the reasons why they were branded heretics and hounded off the face of the earth, is because they did not believe in a virgin birth. They did not believe in Paul as an apostle. They thought he was an apostate. Tells you that even then, back in the first century, there was very legitimate debate about these miracles as recorded in Matthew. And if you look, you're looking right at the scriptures, they tell you they cannot both be true. There's no way someone's going to miss the voice of God suddenly showing up. Or they could be true in that there was multiple voices of God for multiple candidates. It was a common occurrence when John was baptizing. I don't think so. Anyway, the baptism of Jesus, another terrible miracle in the Bible. Thanks.